While creating your estate plan is very important, creating one that avoids common pitfalls and mistakes is essential. Because after all, you don't want to go through all this time it takes to create a plan to protect your loved ones just to have it riddled with errors that end up causing them stress and headaches in the end. Now, making sure you're aware of common estate planning mistakes means you'll be more likely to avoid them. And joining me is someone who knows a lot about this topic, Michelle Gessner with Gessner Wealth Strategies in Houston, Texas. Michelle, thanks for talking with us today. What are some of the most common estate planning mistakes that you see in your practice?
Well, one of the most common mistakes that I encounter is that people don't understand their own estate planning documents. So one of the first things that I do is ask them to describe their documents to me. If they can't describe them, that could indicate a problem, but I'll get them started by asking them some questions. For an example, I'll ask, in the event of the first of you to die, may I assume that your assets pass to the surviving spouse? And typically they'll say yes, because that's the most common arrangement. Then I'll ask them to describe to me what happens after the second death. Do the assets pass to the children outright or in some kind of graduated distributions over a period of time? We'll then talk about how protected their money is at that point in the event of an unfortunate situation that were to occur in their children's lives. For example, let's say one of their children receives the distribution, whether it's outright or after the last graduated payment, and that child is going through a bankruptcy or a divorce or is being sued in a liability lawsuit. I'll ask if the money is protected. And of course, it typically is not. And that's because people do not think that far ahead. Certainly if a child inherits money from a parent and is going through a divorce, the money is not automatically part of the divorce settlement, but if the money is commingled with their joint assets, which could easily happen and often inadvertently, then my client's money is now part of a divorce settlement with their child's ex-spouse. Or if the child is involved in an at-fault accident and has a judgment against them as a result of a liability lawsuit, that child's inheritance is now taken by that judgment. Or if the child launches a business that is later unsuccessful and they have to declare bankruptcy, the inheritance is now subject to that bankruptcy. So without the proper protections in place, these are the kinds of unfortunate consequences that people will experience.
So Michelle, are there other issues that you've seen in your practice?
Yes, so additional planning needs to be done when there's a second marriage to ensure that money flows to the intended beneficiary upon death. A trust is very likely the best tool for that, but we'll also want to make sure that the trust is funded, because unfortunately it's not uncommon for that for people to go to all the trouble to get their trust documents, but then they don't work with their advisor to ensure that the trust is funded with the asset. So now they have a trust that is basically worthless to them. Another common mistake is, even if there's no second marriage, they may forget about what could happen if the surviving spouse were to remarry and the new spouse is able to change the estate planning documents to funnel that money to the new spouse's children instead of it passing to the children of the deceased spouse. So we want to talk about how to prevent these kinds of things from happening with the planning documents. We'll also talk about the unintended consequences of titling their investment accounts the wrong way, which could actually result in disinheriting their children. Inadvertently, of course, but it happens.
I guess, lastly, how do you help people avoid making all these mistakes?
So we're going to talk at length about all of these things and how to protect the money so that it passes to their children and stays in their family. My clients want their money to be bulletproof. So we work through all these different scenarios and talk about the planning vehicles that will prevent these unforeseen events from siphoning money out of the family. The goal is to educate our clients enough about what they want before meeting with their attorney so that the estate planning documents achieve exactly what they want, and we will stay involved to help them understand what they're receiving.
My guest has been Michelle Gessner with Gessner Wealth Strategies in Houston, and this is Retirement News Online.